federal government allows citizens to exhibit portions of copyrighted material under certain circumstances called fair use. These circumstances are criticism, teaching, parody, and news reporting. Satanic Illuminati news is an example of criticism, teaching, parody, and news reporting. We're over at the CNN news feed today. I personally would classify CNN as a partisan news feed, although it is not a self-proclaimed partisan news feed. If you ask the people at CNN, they would say they abide by the tenets of so-called objective journalism. Make of that what you will. I am not going to state an opinion about whether or not I believe Hurricane Irma is being manipulated. I've already told you how I felt about Hurricane Heil Hitler. I don't see any reason why they would stop. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of chatter about Hurricane Harvey and its unnatural path. But that chatter is being suppressed, of course. And I believe that with Irma, if they are manipulating it, they'll be more careful to make sure that it does not overtly act unnaturally. They can manipulate the strength, the wind speed, the rain amount dumped, and no one will be the wiser. You will never see a story on CNN about Trump in a positive light. What this story tells you is that Trump cannot be trusted even by his closest friends. He's a backstabber and a liar and a betrayer. So if you're going to be friends with Trump, watch out. He's an asshole. No. That may be true, but I don't know if it's for CNN to report. Of course it was like a love-in. These guys are best buddies. They go back forever. They used to go on the Howard Stern show back in the 80s and 90s. They are buddies. They travel in the same social cliques. They're working together. Isn't that obvious? If it's not obvious, who's being naive now, Kate? So the people in Washington, D.C. don't understand Trump. They have thrown up their hands and given up. I don't know what to make of this fucking clown. We can't deal with him, so we're just going to, we give up. More divide and conquer bullshit. They know exactly what's happening, and they're playing their role. This is their role, to tell you, this guy's unbelievable. We can't deal with him. That's what you're supposed to think, dumbass. If you don't want your data breached online, don't put your data online. Okay. I have not had a chance to talk about Hillary Clinton much. She's not been in the news a lot, I'm sure by design. She'll reappear in a big way a couple of years from now. Hillary Clinton knew she was going to lose from the beginning. Did you know that the Clintons called Trump the night before he announced for presidency? Actually gave him a phone call. That's a matter of record. Not making that up. What do you think they said in that phone call? How about something like this? Don, you're going to run for president this year and you're going to win. You're going to beat me in an embarrassing and humiliating way that's going to infuriate the entire country. Then we'll have them right where we want them, divided and conquered. You don't think that's what they said? That's what I think they said. That's what I think Trump's presidency is all about. Oh, and listen, if you think Hillary Clinton's got her tail tucked between her legs and hiding somewhere, no. She is still more powerful than Donald Trump. Believe that. All the machinations going on now, oh, she's in there with it. She, Trump, Obama, they're all in it together. Oh my God, why can't you see that? It's so obvious. obvious. What we have here is an entire column called News and Buzz, filled with nothing but fluff, bullshit, gossip, entertainment tonight, crap. NFL sits during a national anthem. Who gives a fuck? Oh, look, co-joined twins are not. Who gives a fuck? 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 Nobody. So why is it on their feed? Do you think perhaps if you clicked on each of these stories, you might be in for some brainwashing? Dumbass. Wow. There's almost zero news on the CNN newsfeed. Okay. Here's something worth talking about. Propaganda for what was first global warming and is now climate change because the globe's not warming anymore began in the early 60s, hit a stride in the early 70s, and is now considered accepted doctrine. As a matter of fact, if you don't believe in it, you're called a denier, and you're on par with those who believe that the Holocaust never happened. You're a denier. Why have they pushed this agenda, which is so blatantly false? If you look at any graph of carbon dioxide or the poisonous gases in the atmosphere, humanity is responsible for a tiny sliver of the total. Let me say that again. All the greenhouse gases they've been complaining about and talking about, human activity is responsible for a tiny sliver. So forget about global warming and climate change. It's bullshit. But if they are manipulating these storms and this weather in a cynical ploy to bolster the evidence for so-called climate change, then these people deserve to die a painful, drawn-out, torturous death. That's how I feel. All those fuckers causing these calamities and then blaming it on climate change need to die. They should get cancer and die. Sorry. That's how I feel. What is Hillary saying about Bernie Sanders? She criticizes Bernie Sanders for running to be the Democratic nominee while not actually being a Democrat, and for targeting her in a campaign of character assassination instead of doing a deep dive into policy. If I remember correctly, Bernie Sanders stood up for Clinton and against the character assassination that was going on when they were investigating her emails. Anyone else remember that? Oh look, according to CNN, Clinton is right. Sanders' attack on her character fed the same narrative as Trump's. They heard her in the general election, and she's right that running on the Democratic ticket when you're not a Democrat isn't just hypocritical. It can be incredibly damaging. For one thing, it gives a candidate a platform to trash the very party he says he wants to lead. Oh, you Bernie supporters, and I know that most of you Democrats were actually Bernie supporters. Check out what your newspaper, what your news feed, what your news network is saying about him. Ah. Are you pissed? Nah. You don't give a fuck. Are they going to kiss? I think they might kiss. Hope there's no tongue. Okay, that's it. So that's it. That's all the news there is to see today, folks. That's it. Okay, all this is fear-mongering about the hurricane, and I'm not saying there isn't reason to be afraid. I believe that there is, but I don't believe it's a natural reason. What an incredibly brilliant attack. How can anyone say the government's doing this, meaning the weather, without being seen as crazy. They have set it up so if you say that, you are automatically crazy. Pretty damn effective. To launch an attack that not only cannot be identified, but if it is identified, seems absolutely absurd. But true. Wow. What did Hitler say? People will believe a lie if it's big enough. Well, if you ask me, these hurricanes are some big ass lies. Let me step away from the news right now and just talk to you a little bit about what's going on in the world and the country. You know what I believe? I believe in my gut that our world has been shaped and is currently being controlled by a small group of very wealthy, very powerful people who believe and worship Satan. Now, when you say someone's a devil worshiper, you immediately conjure up images of witch and blood and fire and blah, blah, blah. That's not what these people are. These people don't worship the devil. They worship Lucifer, the fallen angel, the light bringer, the illuminator, the most beautiful angel in all of heaven, God's favorite angel. This is a divine being who once stood at the right hand of God that they worship, in their opinion. So they don't see themselves as worshiping evil. They see themselves as worshiping illumination, knowledge, the fulfillment of the promise that the serpent made to Eve in the Garden of Eden. I'll open your eyes. You'll know good and evil. You yourself will be like a god. That's what they worship. The idea that they themselves can be like a god, which is a Luciferian idea. Mix that in with some occult practices and rituals and ceremonies as outlined by Aleister Crowley and his sex magic, and you've got a recipe for evil, hidden hand, control. Do I believe they have any special powers? No, of course not. They're fucking morons. But the one special power they do have is financial, scientific, material resources. They can build HARP and make it affect the weather. They can build the LAC at CERN and use it to manipulate and change and pierce the fabric of reality. They can build the D-Wave computer and exchange information with so-called other dimensions. As a matter of fact, it's a documented fact. They put in 100% of energy, they get back 110. This is huge, what this D-Wave computer is doing, and no one's talking about it. Who controls it? The rich and powerful elite, the Satanic Illuminati. Now, you combine all that with a secret knowledge that we only got about 10 more years on this planet before an incredible cataclysm hits. I'm talking about Planet X, of course. They believe, and I truly believe this in my gut, they believe they will survive. They look at Revelations as a kind of script to play out. They'll head to their mountains, to their caves, to their domes, their underground bunkers, and they'll wait it out. They believe they will defy prophecy and emerge victorious. I believe they'll be smashed like everybody else, and that they're a bunch of deluded dumbasses. I don't care how rich and powerful they are. What does it mean for us? Not good. Not too much good, I'm afraid. What it means for us is that it's time to let go. It's time to let go of fear. It's time to let go of anger. It's time to let go of greed. It's time to turn it off, lay it down, and look up at your fellow human beings. Let them know you love them. Start with your family, then your neighbors, and then the world. Let them know you love them. Be a force for good. Fear nothing. It's the only response that makes any sense.